Hello, I'm the Angry Spork, taking issue with Spider-Man. Peter Parker of Earth 616 had a little fight with Mysterio that accidentally sent him to the Ultimate Marvel Universe. After acquainting himself with a new Spidey and a different Nick Fury, and getting a taste of Quentin Beck's new tricks, Parker is still confused if any of this is real. After learning this world's Peter Parker died, he goes to visit Aunt May and Gwen Stacy because he's an idiot. Issue 4's cover has a sorrowful Peter under a spotlight, cradling a seemingly dead Miles. Anyone else think that attempts to modernize West Side Story have gone too far? So here he is, in front of different versions of his own loved ones, who are themselves looking at what appears to be an older version of their lost nephew and friend, but figure he's some rando pulling a prank. So Aunt May smacks him. Gwen goes berserk, kicking him while he's down and looking like she's ready to literally end him.
You think it's funny to come here and with people? Do you have a soul? Do you have a reason to live?
Not the first time she's had to say this. They've already had two prank tubers in ill-fitting Spidey costumes spraying the house with silly string, and those guys had neither the shame nor common sense to admit the savage beating from a teenage girl was not worth the view count. Morales arrives to clear the air that this really is him, which holds some credibility for May and Gwen, since they're already acquainted with the kid. Peter admits he should not have come here. He wasn't thinking, didn't know what he would see, nor expected to see either of them in this world where he died. I just can't understand how there's this entire other world. This is technically the first time 616 Peter goes to another reality, from what I could find. Even so, for some reason this line feels very off to me. He does have a genius-level intellect, pals around with superheroes who are even smarter than he is, has been to other planets, fought lowercase g gods, encountered magic, and even time-traveled. How is the concept of a multiverse this outlandish to him? Yeah, he's confused if this is all real and there's a difference between theorizing and experiencing a different Earth, but for some reason this just isn't landing for me. He admits this was a mistake and apologizes for it. And then May faints. On the Triskelion, Tony hasn't gotten much from a night of analyzing the Mysterio avatar, beyond some theories and a sore spot that Beck figured out reality jumping before he did. He asks if Fury actually believes this new Spidey is from another Earth, and yeah, he does, since they already know there are other Earths out there besides their own. The big reason he even let Parker go free instead of locking him down is because of promises he made to their world's Peter that he never got to fulfill, remarking how much his loved ones have to go through. So, given that you anticipated 616 Spidey going to Ultimate Spidey's home, your big idea to keep your promise to a dead kid was to pile on the emotional trauma and mental scarring you are currently lamenting on his family and friends?
You are a fistful of stupidity.
We pop in on Ultimate Mary Jane Watson's home, and either I'm forgetting a lot of latter-day Ultimate stuff, or her Hot Topic fashion phase kicked in after Peter's death. She gets a call from Gwen that really plays into Bendis' style of letting characters rant, saying a lot without much substance because it feels more real. Basically, Miss Stacy is conflicted about telling her something, but figures she'll find out anyway, and we leave before she gets to the freaking point. May wakes up on her couch, hearing voices from the attic, where she sees Peter casually chatting with Gwen and Miles about the differences between their worlds. Parker says yes, there is a Gwen on his world about his age, and their history is a whole thing, leading Ultimate Stacy to presume he's dating his world's MJ. Oh no, I married her, but traded that marriage to a demon because for some reason a world full of super geniuses and sorcerers couldn't heal Aunt May's bullet wound, so now I lost a fulfilling career and a wife who loved me to have meaningless hookups with a cat-themed ex-girlfriend who has a plunging neckline. As you do. After finding out the other Mary Jane is a supermodel, Gwen asks what her alternate self does. Parker decides to avoid saying something akin to lying in a casket 6 feet under when Aunt May walks in, still skeptical that this is her nephew, despite Gwen's excitement. Peter explains he's not staying and is only here by accident. I was fighting this jerk called Mysterio.
The crazy guy on YouTube.
Do you have the slightest idea how little that narrows it down?
He again apologizes for showing up like this, which he would have avoided if he had given it 2 seconds of thought, and goes on that his Aunt May raised him with Uncle Ben. Like in this world, he's gone as well because of Peter's inaction, and now he uses his abilities the way he feels Ben would have. Sharing a power and responsibility reference is what convinces May this man is who he claims, then proceeds to hug him. Before Ultimate Pete died, his secret was basically just between May, Gwen, MJ, Norman Osborn, and Kitty Pryde, whom he dated for a spell. Did he happen to mention how Ultimate Black Cat flirted with him until finding out he was 15 years old, then threw up? Just curious. As the conversation steers back to MJ as a supermodel, Miles, who'd been fiddling around with one of the teen Parker's web shooters, looks out the window to see a S.H.I.E.L.D. limo pull up, saying it's time for the webheads to go. Peter has changed his mind as he approaches the door, now glad that he showed up, hugging May and Gwen goodbye. Fury tells Miles to head home, but since Parker would prefer that he stay, the director of S.H.I.E.L.D. tells the kid to get in the van. That's clearly a limo, but whatever. Before he can put his mask back on, Pete notices MJ nearby, among other onlookers, but when he takes a step toward her, she runs off. I'd like to think he realized how bad the optics would be if people saw a grown-up Spider-Man chasing after a teenage girl, so he gets in the limo van. Morales asks if there's a Nick Fury on his world, and Peter says yes. Yeah? What's he like? White? Sorry to hear that. Samuel L. Fury isn't being racist, he's just not a fan of David Hasselhoff. Some of you might need stitches if you understood that deep cut. The limo flies away, because S.H.I.E.L.D., Aunt May is confident she made the right choices, Gwen suggests she might write a book, and somewhere nearby, Mary Jane is alone, crying. The spiders are taken to the Triskelion, where Stark has not yet cracked the interdimensional equations to get their guest back home, needing to know where all this complex math even begins. Parker helps him out, being something of a scientist himself.
I understood that reference.
When Miles chimes in, recognizing a building in the background of one of Mysterio's rant videos. He points out a light from one of the windows, thinking they could pinpoint the villain's lab from that, so an impressed Fury orders a full battalion, leading a strike team alongside Iron Man, Thor, and the Spiders, ending the issue. This time, it's not an Arby's run. I mean, it's not only an Arby's run. Issue 5's cover sees the Wallcrawlers alongside Fury and Shellhead against the S.H.I.E.L.D. signal, I guess. Opening on a 2-page spread, Mysterio is certain that Spider-Man is essentially destroyed, trapped in a world where his younger self is dead. As long as the dimensional vortex is kept shut, his nemesis will essentially cease to exist on Earth 616. Whoever his loved ones are here, whatever life he built for himself, I don't have to figure out a way to ruin it. It's ruined. Well, yeah, but that wasn't you. That was Joe Quesada. Despite this victory, it's not enough, either because there's still more of this issue to read, or because he needs to confirm things for himself. See Spidey suffer to death. He boots up another avatar, turns on the vortex, then gets web pulled through, looking like he just saw Jason Voorhees in a Speedo as he's forcibly brought to the Ultimate Verse, confronted by our heroes. The spiders take turns taunting the devastated foe, while Fury calls in some S.H.I.E.L.D. nerds to deal with a portal that Iron Man detects is unstable.
And I could not be more excited. This is like Christmas. I mean, the Mandarin isn't launching missiles at my house, but hey, can't have everything.
Fury says Parker needs to get back to his proper reality so they can shut this portal down for good, leading the Spideys to kinda stumble through their farewells.
I feel like I should say something profound. With great power comes great responsibility? You know that one? Yeah. Did you forget I was in the attic when you and May said it out loud? Rude. No! 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 No!
No, and no.
Breaking free, Mysterio sets off an explosion to distract his captors, slugging Parker while saying he's prepared for anything. The Ultimates are just so helpful in this situation, you guys. He drops more of his spear hallucinogens, because I guess he's just Scarecrow at this point, and everyone sees something they're afraid of. The Ultimates dead, New York destroyed, Aunt May impaled by Doc Ock while a giant green goblin watches, and the Prowler killing Miles's parents. Not enough page space for what the others are seeing, so let's assume beer vanishing from existence for Ultimate Thor, each of the agents' favorite TV shows getting cancelled, and a tell-all book about Ultimate Hawkeye's love of bluey fanfiction. Peter encourages everyone to push past what they're experiencing as Mysterio heads for the portal again. But it's Miles' turn to exclaim no as he tackles the villain through the vortex, ending up on Earth 616 with him. He loses sight of Beck, who tries sneaking up from behind, just like Issue 1. For a guy who built a doorway between realities and is big on theatrics, he's not all that creative, is he? It works about as well as the first time, too, Morales dodging and disappearing from sight, as Mysterio rages at having 2 spiders to deal with. He must not notice that he's backing toward the vortex again, making it that much simpler for Miles to drop down on him as they return to the Ultimate Universe. Spider Punch here, Venom Sting there, possibly a delayed reaction to the latter, and Quentin is down. Fury arrests him, intending to keep him in this dimension, which is all the better since he knows Parker's secret identity. Yeah, they didn't make it all that clear that this was 616 Mysterio. His rant at the beginning about discovering the universe, talking about Spidey being dead, I guess he meant he discovered the Ultimate Verse, and by extension, Spidey's alter ego. But nothing specified what world he was from, so I assumed he meant he discovered the 616. You're bound to forget stuff when you read and or review stuff for years. Parker needs to vamoose now, since the vortex is going to close in on itself soon. He thanks everyone for their help, even the other superheroes who stood around and did nothing, and especially Miles for maintaining the Spider legacy, formally giving his blessing to carry on in the webs. But he did want to tell the kids something before Beck broke loose. A myriad of things, actually. Don't get cloned, don't lend money to certain heroes, date only one girl at a time, wash the suit daily, but before he can finish the truest, most important thing about being Spider-Man, he's through the portal and it closes. Not sure if that was meant as a joke or just Parker luck. Fury tells Morales that he'll need to keep earning that blessing, and the young hero heads out as a new day dawns. Back in his own world, a zestfully clean Parker sits at his computer and types Miles Morales into a search engine, and the comic ends on his shocked reaction to the result. He reviews comics on YouTube? No! That was Spider-Man, an enjoyable read, though it felt weighed down by a few things. Firstly, and I'll admit this is probably more of a me thing, I'd have liked some indication that this was 616 Beck. I haven't read Ultimate Spidey in a dog's age, and his dialogue felt so generic I figured the Ultimate version discovered the primary Marvel-verse. I also was not reading any Spider comics around this time, so I don't know if his part-time job looting another universe was ever mentioned there. Thus, I imagine other readers who didn't collect the Ultimate imprint may also have been a tad confused. As for Misty's plan, well, he seemed to kind of just improvise. Spidey being sent there was a complete accident to begin with, and after his first attempt to take him out failed, he figures it's enough that he's trapped on a different Earth that thinks he's dead. Until it's not enough. But if Beck's been observing that world for so long, certainly he knows there are pretty smart people over there that Peter could ask for help. Not to mention, he's an Avenger on Earth 616, so does Mysterio think they're not going to realize their teammate is missing after a while and start poking around? Perhaps I'm not aware of his personality at this point, but Beck just seemed very short-sighted and scatterbrained. Maybe he needs better ventilation to those fish bowls he wears, because he doesn't seem to be getting sufficient oxygen to the old gray matter. If you're not too big on Bendis' style of writing, you may not be overly fond of this one. It continues his tendency to blur the lines between emphasis and padding, between bubbles with different texts that essentially say the same thing, over-explaining with modern slang or syntax of the time, and flat-out repetition.
It's my job to be repetitive. My job. Repetitiveness is my job.
Don't get me wrong, the spiders are still funny when they need to be, and plenty of dialogue feels natural, but it's one of those elements that's prone to drawing things out more than needed. This is 5 issues, but could have been 4. Partial credit for that goes to Peter doing one of the dumbest things possible, showing up at Maze in broad daylight to see if this world is real or not. would it not have made more sense to go about it stealthily, hide out nearby to watch for May or someone else familiar? I could see not wanting to steal some clothes and go incognito. That would require unmasking for whatever surveillance might be watching him if it's all made up. But the way this was done felt like rushing to dramatic tension. It already seemed a bit weird to me that he didn't believe that this was another reality, but if he's entertaining the idea anyway, what does he think this will accomplish? Yeah, he said he wasn't really thinking, but that feels more like the story giving itself an easy pass for an emotional side quest that doesn't feel entirely earned.
My emotions! My emotions!
Granted, one would expect he would at least be curious how different versions of his loved ones are doing, and his interactions with Gwen and May are well done. MJ's portion doesn't seem to really go anywhere, unless it got covered in the Ultimate books before the imprint was cancelled, but I digress. I think we still could have gotten there if instead he played it smart, watched from nearby where he thinks no one can see, watches Aunt May walk out and is so stunned to see a slightly younger version, barely notices his spider sense alerting him to Gwen about to clobber him with a broomstick or something. She cusses him out, May sees what the commotion is as Gwen pulls off the mask to see an older Peter, and Miles arrives to provide context. In that scenario, he would still indulge his curiosity, but in a way that at least seems smart, just turns out poorly, rather than going full stupid from the get-go. Yeah, Pete's got that genius who does dumb things trait, but this felt like a stretch to me, since it seems like any previous experience he should have with illusions and trickery from his various villains goes right out the window. That's not to say it's all bad. It's still fun to see the spiders work together, learn more about each other, even if I think there could have been more of Miles, not to mention Peter's interactions with Fury. Everyone seems in character, aside from my previous criticisms, and there's this subtle difference with the 616 universe dialogue being all caps like we're used to, and the normal structure with lowercase for the Ultimate world. That isn't 100% consistent, but still a nice detail. The art is really good, with great coloring for effects like Mysterio's swirling clouds, and incredible detail on buildings and vehicles. There were quite a few two-page spreads, with maybe a couple not feeling like they needed that particular structure, contributing a bit to the feeling that this was 4 issues stretched into 5, but they still at least look good. Covers were also well done, nice touch with the Two Worlds banner changing adjectives, though number 4's cover was an outright lie, given that Miles is in no way in life-threatening danger.
Why would you make up a lie like that?
Not only was it really nice to see Peter give his blessing for Morales to continue on as Spider-Man, I got the suspicion that when he said absolutely, he meant it like there wasn't any question. The kid showed himself capable and clever, even if he may have made a mistake or two. Who's Parker to judge, right? And maybe he didn't necessarily need a different Earth's webhead to give him the thumbs up, but he earned it anyway. This story has its ups and downs, maybe stumbling a bit to a few story points, and arguably dragged on a skosh longer than necessary, but it's still entertaining, while cementing the passing of a torch, confirming Miles Morales in a way that felt organic and respectful to both him and Peter Parker. I'm the Angry Spork, and man, have I got issues.